I were to ask most of you how you'd achieve the most realistic and immersive sim racing experience, I have a feeling that the majority of you would tell me VR. And I would tend to agree with you guys on some level because nothing else is going to offer a one-to-one realistic cockpit view or the depth perception that VR can. But there's a reason that VR is my second favorite option, and there's a reason that I'm not using VR right now. And if you're not familiar with the Cockpit 2.0 build, these are my real hands, and I am actually in a 3D printed cockpit. So here's my thing with VR.
While it is overall an extremely immersive experience, two things completely kill it for me. And the first one is the hands. Now we could talk about hand tracking all day long, but no title is going to make it look as realistic as your actual hands do, and nothing's going to give you the ability to actually control all the functions inside the car the way I can with my actual sim rig. And the other part of that is the details. No matter what you do, you're always going to be lacking on the details inside of the cockpit, or it's going to look a little bit too cartoony, or the lighting's not going to be right inside of there, and it just doesn't feel natural sitting inside of the cockpit. Looking outside through monitors, you can dial in the detail on the monitors while having a super immersive and realistic build underneath, and it actually feels natural and immersive. And that's why for this video, we're going to be focusing on the details in Cockpit 2.0 and making 3 more immersive sim rig upgrades that I haven't had a chance to fully share the process with you guys on. Now, I'd love to tell you guys that we're going to start with my favorite project, but the truth is, out of the 3, I can't really decide which one I like the best. 2 of them are extremely unique and probably done in a way that hasn't been done before. And the third one is a little more common than I think some of the others, but it's still more customized and a little more technical than I think the skill level I had going into it. But I was able to come out on top and get it done right. So let's just go ahead and start with the center console because I think that's what set the rig off the most in terms of looking realistic and immersive. So if I'm being honest, I've been hypercritical about the center console and I've rebuilt several different pieces of it multiple times, and I'm being so picky about it because it's the one part of the rig that I didn't actually want to put in there. Like, I didn't want a shifter or a center console because the actual Cup car wouldn't have a shifter or a center console. But at the same time, when I start thinking about when I want to rally or drift or do anything that requires a shifter just having fun, not having it would kind of suck. So by the time I got to the third design, I started to realize that the best way to make it look right was to not let it look like a 3D printed part at all. For what will be the third and final console lid, I decided to design it all in 2 pieces. 1 piece for the main, 1 piece for the insert. And ultimately, I wanted to do this so that I could add more curvature to it and have it feel more natural. But at the end of the day, it wasn't all going to fit on the print bed. So each piece had to be split in half and printed. And then once they were printed, I was able to take them outside, throw a coat of primer on them, and then get them hydro dipped using the same forged carbon dip that I've been using throughout the rest of the rig. Now, before we get into the next part of building the center console, it seems like this is the right place to tell you that I did design 2 different console lids. They look essentially the same. One's just quite a bit thicker than the other one. The first one was too thick, didn't really fit on the rig, so I went back, trimmed it down some, and printed the thinner version. I made both available to TWE Premium members. If you guys aren't aware, you can join the TWE Premium membership here on the YouTube channel and get access to member-only posts where I share all of the files for this build. Now, before I get around to putting the final console lid onto the rig, there's one other thing that I've been putting off for quite a while that finally needs to happen, and that's getting the gray suede onto the center console so that it looks cohesive and everything looks right. Crazy how long it's taken me to finally get around to doing this little bit of wrap that I'm doing right here. And to be honest with you guys, I really don't enjoy wrapping anything. For some reason, it's just not something that I like doing. I like the result, but I really hate actually putting wrap on things because it's just always a pain to get it to come out the way I want it to. Now we just need to do the other side. That'll be fun. I forgot about the handbrake being over here, which honestly needs to come out anyways, but I haven't gotten around to it. So let's see if we can work around the handbrake for right now because I don't want to take it out at this very moment. It's not that I don't want to have a handbrake in the car, it's just not in a very useful position. It's kind of a makeshift solution to get it in here for a rally, and using it is not easy. Alright, for as much as I've historically hated wrapping things, that actually didn't go too bad. Now before we get the new lid put on, just in case you guys weren't around for the original center console build. This is all built with 2020 profile. It's framed out. Basically, these are 400 millimeter 2020 profile, 150 millimeter in between. And it's got these little sliding rails in the middle. These are where the lid's gonna clip onto. I've 3D printed both side panels. As you guys saw, I've already wrapped them in suede. So now we can pop the tops on and get this whole thing put together. So the first part to go on is the shifter housing. This is gonna be a whole button box that I'm gonna design and build out, and I'm kinda gonna build the whole thing from scratch with RGB in it and stuff. So that's gonna take some time for now. I just went ahead and made a little insert, something to make it look clean and keep it from, you know, being a big open hole for right now. I think it looks okay. So we'll go ahead and pop that in place. And it just snaps right in there. Now the reason it snaps in is because on the bottom I've got these little clip pins that I've printed into the design. I'm actually thinking, because of some things that might be coming up, I might be designing a separate clip pin for this. But for right now, this is working really well. The design came out good, so no reason to really do anything with it just yet. Now for the center console insert, I wanted to be able to wrap it in suede and not have the cup holder get in the way, so I printed the cup holder separate. The suede looks a little bit rough right now, but once I drop it in and get the cup holder in, it pretty much hides all the imperfections. And then here's the cup holder. It just pops right in. I've also got a frame for the shifter. And it fits in really tight, which is kind of what I wanted, because I wanted it to all stay in place. And that kind of locks the whole design where it needs to be. And at some point, I may or may not glue this GT3 RS in place. Now, if you guys are like me and you scrutinize every detail, then you might have noticed throughout this video that I went from a 992 style button box to an 8-button 992.2 style button box. And that's what I want to talk about next, because it wasn't as simple as just swapping the buttons over, because I wanted to get a little RGB into it as well. Those of you that watch the channel know that I tend to share processes in post, because I'm still learning as I go too, and this whole thing's been a bit experimental. So this was the original print. I actually printed a new one that's on the rig that you guys may have seen in the beginning of the video. But I wanted to explain how I built the button box and kind of how I had to modify these buttons to get them to work. So this is a 16 millimeter LED arcade button. You guys can see it's square button, so it matches up with the square buttons you'd find on the 992.2. Now, the problem with these is they come with only a white light in them. They're not really controllable in any way. So what I decided to do was remove the LED in them and wire my own LED. So essentially, if this is something you guys want to do, starting at the back here and just pulling on this little blue thing, it'll eventually give out. So the first thing to be aware of is there is a little spring in here if you guys use the same button. At some point during this, that's probably going to fall apart and that piece is going to pop out. It may not, but most likely will. It almost always does as soon as I take this LED out. This little yellow LED, I'm just going to pop that bulb right out. And let's see. See, there we go. That little side came off. And we'll take the spring out so we don't lose it. Basically, sliding those back in place isn't that big of a deal. And then you have your positive and negative prongs coming through on the sides here. I'm just going to go ahead and push those all the way out of here too. And it's probably worth noting that this particular button is put together in 3 pieces. So if you push too hard, it starts to separate in these different layers, and you'll start to lose the function of the button. Now for the new LED, I'm going to be using these. These are RGB, but they're not individually addressable. So they're all going to show the same color. They're controlled through the coding in the Arduino board. And essentially, the reason I wanted to do that is I wanted to be able to give them startup animations and stuff that would go along with what I have from Daniel Newman Racing in SimHub. And you'll notice one of the prongs on this is a little bit longer than the others. That is intended to be the positive, though I've found that sometimes it's actually not. And I've basically just had to go back and test them after the fact. But to get this thing in place, what I've been doing is right here where the splits were for the contacts that were slid in there, I'll try to take the first 2 prongs and just slide them right into the hole where that came out of. And if I do it right, you guys can see we can get them on 2 separate sides so that they don't make contact with each other, just like that.
And then I'll do the same on the other side. And essentially you'll want to twist it so that these aren't going to make contact or short out off of one another. So basically once you have them all run, it'll look like this right here. You guys can see there's a nice separation between the two leads, and you can kind of spread them apart down at the bottom too. You just want to make sure when you go to solder it and do everything that these don't touch. And now you have a positive and your red, green, and blue wires all in place. Then you have your two contact points to activate the button. Putting it back together, of course we've got our little sliding button right here. Essentially just drops right in place once you can line it up. And then the spring, if you start from the bottom and just use your fingernail, you can actually compress it really easy and usually get it to hold in place, but I just shot that one off. You can also put the spring in first and then put the little slide in place. Now I'm trying to share this on camera. It's not sliding in place as easy as it usually does. There we go. But the best solution would obviously be to do this over a table where you're not going to have it go flying off if you can help it. I don't know why that one's having such a hard time standing in place. Usually they go in and then they kind of stay there as long as you're careful. But we'll just go ahead and pop it in there and then it won't come out again. So then once that's sitting on the edge, I just take the pliers, which is kind of gnarled this thing, but take the pliers, try to grab it from different points and just press it all the way back in. And then the faceplate should just pop right back in there. And now we have an RGB button as opposed to just a normal LED button. They can easily be programmed to be any color you want and also have animations if you set them up right.
Now, in the interest of getting to the third and final upgrade, I just want to cover the wiring matrix really quick. So essentially for the button boxes, I do use a wiring matrix. I had already installed the new button box faceplate into the rig, so I wasn't able to show exactly how I wired that one, so I just thought I would explain it real quick. I used the same standard wiring matrix that I used on the previous button box that I've already shared with you guys. The only difference is for the RGB, the positive runs to the VCC on the Arduino board, and then the red, green, and blue wires are all wired together, so all the reds, all the greens, all the blues on 3 separate wires go into pins 14, 15, and 16 on the Arduino board. Those are where they're going to be able to control the lighting. And you guys will be able to see that animation and how that works when I show you guys the full build at the end of the video. Now there's already some great tutorials on how to wire a button box, but if you guys want me to do a full tutorial on how I do it, then let me know down in the comments. I'll absolutely share that with you guys. I just didn't want to take the time to do it in case you guys have already watched those and you're already familiar with it. Now let's get into what is the third and final upgrade, the one that's been on my mind since I started building this rig. Like I knew exactly what I wanted to do with this. I just hadn't gotten around to doing it yet, and that's the door. With the door, I wanted something really simple for the actual like skeletal part of it or the main frame of it. So you guys can see I just did some aluminum profile, built a square, and then I put a couple support beams in the middle, basically so that it would match the print size that I could use. It's got some aluminum profile hinges at the back, and I had to 3D print a couple extensions because I have an angled upright. So essentially, now that it's all set in place, you guys can see I've got 9 panels. And I'm just going to wrap it in suede because I want to bolt like a handle and a carbon fiber door face on it. Some other things that I'm going to bolt on that'll make it look more authentic. But for this video, we're going to go ahead and wrap it in suede and maybe get a door strap put on. All right guys, so the center console took a bit, so I went ahead and just took care of wrapping the door. And as you guys can see, I also added the handle. Now, I should have taken the door off to wrap it. I would have gotten straighter lines. On the other hand, the lines aren't really going to show by the time I add everything I'm going to this, so it's not a big deal. As far as the handle goes, you guys can see I 3D printed 2 ends. I used M4 bolts to put the strap on, and then M4 bolts to bolt it to the door. So now I have a door handle. Now I cut a lot of explanations out of this part of the video because I had some plans for things I was going to do down the road that I ended up getting done a lot sooner than I planned on. So let's jump back over to the door and I'll show you guys the finished product because I think it came out really good. It still needs a little suede, but aside from that, the door is pretty much finished and I'm stoked with how it turned out. Now back over here at the door, as I said, I cut out a lot of explaining because I could just show you guys. One of the big things that I wanted to make sure I did with the door, you guys can see I still need to add some more suede. I'm going to order some more. But I wanted to get this panel going across here, basically just so that there wasn't a weird gap under the monitor and there would be no angles where you could see down out of the rig that would break the immersion. I think it came out really good. You'll also notice down here, I've got this panel And I haven't really explained this panel. If you guys follow on other social media, you've probably seen what it is. But if you only follow on here, you guys haven't even seen this yet. So right here, you guys will see this little handle. I can pull the panel off. And under that, I've got my own mini keyboard. I've always had just a loose keyboard floating around. Since I started designing this, I wanted to make sure I got a keyboard onto the door. I don't know that this is necessarily the best implementation. I've got some other ideas that I tossed around, but I think it works really good. The only problem with it is it's a little hard to slide out because of the cord. I may go with a wireless small keyboard long term. For right now though, I'm just stoked to have one in reach. And as you guys can see, I can just pop the cover right back on. No more keyboard. Might need to figure out a way to get that a little bit tighter. But overall, very stoked about the door. So let's jump in the rig. I'll show you guys how all this comes together in a full POV situation where you guys can see how realistic and immersive this whole rig has become with these upgrades. All right guys, so here we are in the rig. I got my racing gloves on. If you aren't familiar with Saints of Speed gloves, they've got some awesome designs. I'm not affiliated with them in any way, shape, or form, but I was able to get them to give me a discount to share with you guys. That's available down in the description. If you guys need some cool karting gloves, go check it out. As far as the work we've done with the rig, first off, I've obviously got my door over here. And once I put the racing net in, it's going to distract from this little bit of ledge. Not that it's even bothersome really anyways, but having the net on, now I've got a pretty solid like peripheral left side over here. On the right side, got the new center console, which looks fantastic. I'm way happier with this center console than I was the old one. And this is definitely the one that's going to stay in the car. I just need to finish building the button box for up here. And then when I turn on the car, you guys will see some of the lights come on, and that animation I talked about, this just flashes orange while the ignition's on and the car's not running. But when I start the car, you guys will notice, as all the other animations do, that's going to have its own animation cycle to it, and then it's just going to go to a solid white. So I'll go ahead and start the car up. And it's those little details of just having the wheel flicker and the flag box and the button box all flicker and do things when the car starts up that feels so realistic. And then just feeling enclosed, like I'm encapsulated on the left side and I have the nets around me. Like the realism is insane in this thing now. And then I did take some time to update my brake bias knob here, so it's got a little more grip to it. Looks a little more legit, and I'm much happier with the bias knob. And as I cruise the track, you guys will see with the lighting and everything, it just feels like you're finally enclosed in a race car. And I don't know how to describe it, because as I brought up VR in the beginning, right? We talked about VR. The experience of being able to reach out and touch everything and see everything with the level of detail that it has makes this 2D screen not even really stand out as being 2D. All right, so I jumped ahead to a spot with some good ambient lighting. I wanted you guys just to feel like that light flicker and everything that happens through this section. Like the rig just feels so realistic, and honestly, without doing some of the things that I have planned for the next build, which there's still some things left to finish on this one, and I don't want to give away the next build, but without doing those things, I don't know how much more realistic this could get. I still need to finish the pedal well, that's on the list for sure. And then of course the driver's side door isn't fully complete. I still need a roll bar over there. And then once I get the roll bar in, I need to paint the entire roll cage. Outside of that, this build's pretty much done. If you guys aren't already following the build, make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss the end of this one or miss the next one, which is, like I said, is going to be just absolutely bonkers, I think, compared to what this has been. And if you haven't already, make sure you go check out the sponsors, give them some love. They've helped speed up the process and get some things that I need in here a little bit quicker than others. I do still need a belt tensioner. I forgot to mention that as one final upgrade that I want for the rig, and it's something that I've been saving up for and plan on being able to get in the next month. So I think we're gonna land just about a year and a month on this build, but it's definitely been worth it. I'll see you guys on the next video.